What's going on, you beautiful viewer, and welcome to Never Lag. This is This Week in Gaming, the show where we talk about this week in gaming. And it's really the show where Zach sits down and tells me about the news, as well as you guys. So we're all here just to have some fun. And of course, I am Levi, joined by the man who fell in the pit, Zach. Zach, how you doing?
I'm pretty good, Levi. I'm excited to just spew some news both at you and our lovely viewers. So
That sounds
welcome,
gross. I
everyone.
can't wait. So, yeah, so there's a lot. There's a lot of news happening. If you're looking for any sort of information having to do with Summer Games Fest or the showcases thereafter, we have separate videos where we covered those in their entirety, talked about our reactions and thoughts on all the games that were shown / announced. So that will not be here, and we will have all the news that is unrelated to that. So let's talk games and let's get into it. How many stories do we have today?
We have 6 stories to go over, and then we have a couple of review roundups. And we have some, as usual, we'll talk about any games coming out and free stuff that might be worth noting. So jumping right into it, our first story of the day, Diablo 3 is terrible, I guess, is the way to put it.
Surprise.
So Diablo Immortal launched. Blizzard announced this. I don't remember exactly. Was it an event last year or the year before? Or time
Oh, it's
doesn't
been,
has been a
I
few
think
years
it's been
now.
3 or 4 years.
Good Lord. I guess a few
Yeah.
years ago at some event, Blizzard announced this, and I think the hope was that, well, one, Diablo 2 was fairly. Diablo 2 came out, I don't know, 12 years ago. It's a series with a lot of hopes and expectations attached to it. It's a beloved series. And the fact that this was going to be a mobile game, but it's Diablo, I think a lot of people were hoping that this was going to be a mobile game that's actually good. And I'm not sure. I think what that actually means
The thing too is that it came at a time, the announcement came at a time when people are waiting for news on the next main installment of Diablo.
Yeah.
And so this announcement was not received well at all, because if you have gamers ready for the mainline announcement and you announce a mobile game, not going to go over too well. So
I can't wait for God of War mobile to come out at the end of this year and not Ragnarok. Yeah,
they are doing that, you know that, right?
Yeah, well, but they hopefully are coming out with Ragnarok as well. So in this case, they didn't come out with a third
That's true.
mainline console. They kind of combined it. So that was not received super well. But I think some people, the silver lining was, well, maybe this will be the first good mobile game. It'll be a sort of mainline game that's on mobile. And I think that was one of those wild fantasies that was not realized. So fast forwarding to today and how that's been received, Diablo 3 has a 0.5 score on Metacritic,
Wow.
which what's crazy is it has multiple scores this low. But something that was noted in the Video Games Chronicle article, which I'll link in the notes, is that Diablo Immortal's score now means that Blizzard has achieved the unenviable feat of releasing 0 point something user scored games in 3 subsequent years.
Yep.
So there's been a 0 point something score 2020, 2021, 2022, which is just horrendous. It's amazing. It's almost
They're
impressive.
On a streak.
It's
They're
almost
on a hot streak.
They should get a trophy for that. It's worth noting the reviews are a little bit better in the app stores, iOS App Store and Google Play, which seems obvious because they are mobile games. So the perception is different. They're sitting at a 4.6 for iOS and 3.3 for Google Play, both out of 5. So kind of on the slightly higher end, but mobile reviews don't really count, in my opinion, for what this game was supposed to be. What's really frustrating is that there's been a lot of players voicing complaints about especially the microtransactions. So the reason the score is so low is because the microtransactions are completely egregious. A couple people on Reddit started detailing how much it would cost to fully upgrade and max out a character. And they were coming up with figures over $100,000 to be able to fully max out a character. And it could go even higher than that. This was actually a video from Bellular News. We'll link the thing in here as well. And then in a Reddit thread, they were kind of talking about how in order to level up your gear, like all the way to rank 10, it could cost you, again, upwards of 40, 50 grand, 100 grand. Um, and there's some screenshots that I pulled from Twitter that I'll throw up as well, showing just how much Diablo 3 Immortal is pay to win. Um, and one guy here is talking about how you're essentially playing through a dungeon to open a loot box that you bought. And an endgame build requires hundreds of legendary crest runs, and you can get like maybe 3 a month for free. So if you need hundreds of these, like, you're going to have to pay for this, or you're going to spend the rest of your life like grinding for it. Completely ridiculous. In some comments we've got from people say things along the lines of, this game is really fun. I highly appreciate that I can put 30 plus hours for free. However, as you reach around level 50 plus, you feel more and more of the pay to win aspects. If you're below level 50, it's designed to be more fun for those earlier levels. And that this one person was saying, I would love to spend 500 hours on this game rather than 50 and drop it, but the pay to win tactics just make it untenable. So yeah, it's one other person I think has a really good point here on Reddit where they say, I am someone who has fallen into this trap with a mobile game. You spend money, get nothing, then you spend more money until you finally get the thing, because you don't want to feel like you just wasted 30 bucks, 60 bucks, etc. Once you finally get your thing, it will have cost you $100+. With Diablo Immortal, though, I'm watching Blizzard's victims fall into the trap while spending thousands of dollars trying to get the thing. I'm someone who has a bit of a gambling itch, and I felt like dying after spending $1,300 plus on a mobile game over 6 months. I can't imagine people are going to be feeling too well mentally once they realize how much they're spending on Diablo. I've even been here, and like, I don't have too bad of that itch, but there was a mobile game I was playing 4 or 5 years ago, and I spent like $130 on something. And I remember, granted, I was a little bit inebriated, I think, when I made those decisions, but I remember feeling so stupid later. But the thing is, you pay for like these upgrades and you feel like, well, I might as well get the thing I really want because I've already spent 30, 50 bucks on a stupid mobile game.
It's a sunk cost fallacy at its finest.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. But yeah, this is just, it's really, really egregious and upsetting. So, I mean, we'll pause here for a minute. I'd love to hear your thoughts on just all of this nightmare around monetization within Diablo Immortal.
I just don't understand what the big fuss is about. Do you all not have phones? That's a callback. I don't. Do you remember that meme from when they announced it?
Yeah. We all have phones. It's the most universal console. Yeah, I'll find the clip.
Yeah.
The current plan is to be on mobile, both Android and iOS. We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
You can play on your tablet too.
Everyone's all upset. He's like, "Do you not have phones?" Yeah, we'll show it here. It's, oh my goodness, so out of touch. But anyways, this is what we expected this to be. Blizzard is not a shining beacon of hope in the industry by any means. We're hoping they change a little bit with the acquisition from Microsoft in the years to come. But when they announced this game, I think we all knew that this was just gonna try and skin everyone for everything they're worth if they can, right? That's kind of what the mobile market is anyways. It's just an awful place to be. I love video games, and I don't touch mobile games like whatsoever. I guess you could argue I play Genshin, and Genshin is very manipulative. That's probably as close as I ever get to a mobile game. Mm-hmm. But it's just, these companies just keep setting the bar higher and higher in a terrible sense, and not just barely getting over it, but like leaps and bounds, exponentially getting worse. And I don't understand. You would think, all of these games, they're meant to cater to whales, essentially, right? They're not meant to cater to the free to play players or the low spenders. They want whales to spend thousands of dollars on this game. People who have money just don't care. Probably people who have problems and don't have money, that too, right? That's where they really make their money. But I feel like there has to be a line at which you've made things so stupidly expensive that the amount of whales you have decreases, and obviously the free to play low cost people are spending even less because it gets you nothing. I just feel like there has to be a line at some point where this is no longer lucrative for them. But apparently we have not found it. I don't know. I just did a quick Google of Diablo Immortal and some of the headlines that come up. Diablo Immortal ignores anger, celebrates 10 million downloads. Diablo Immortal is far too good to be free. That's from 2 days ago. And then another one, dude spends 6,000 on Diablo Immortal.
Goodness.
Gets no 5-star legendary gems.
I'm sorry, there's a difference between a game is too good to be free and this guy spent $6,000 on a mobile game. Like,
right. When was the
okay,
last
an
time?
amazing
Let me
mobile
ask you a
game?
question. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you spent $6,000 on a video game? Like to purchase a video game, you go into Best Buy, you go into eBay. When was the last time you had to buy a $6,000 video game?
My PC might have been encroaching, but
Your
that's
PC,
the platform.
right? There you go.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's so disingenuous to say free to play has gotten so ugly. And maybe it even started ugly, honestly, right? So I don't know. It's awful. This is kind of to be expected. I guess for me, I just hate to see it succeed. Like I hope they're not going to make money off of this, but they will because there are just people out there who continue to make it a viable business option. And as much as 99% of us hate it, it doesn't seem like it will ever change unless legislation steps in because
Right.
We humans, there's enough of us that will open our wallets for some reason with this stuff.
Right. And it's a similar pattern of like other addictive things where the vast majority of goods sold go to a very small minority of customers. And I don't know exactly what that percentage breakdown is for Diablo, but it's probably a couple of percent is responsible for the lion's share of the spend that's happening. And so they don't need to care that the games industry at large is furious with this game if they have those people who are paying. And it sounds like the gameplay itself is pretty fun, which is this is the other frustrating thing is games that are good enough that get people playing. So then it doubly justifies it because you're like, well, I really like the game, so I am going to pay for it. And I found myself saying that too. I'm like, well, it's free. And to an extent, I always feel like I feel happy to support developers with games that I like. The problem with free to play is that it's this never ending thing. And it's not just like a one-off where it's like, I'm going to do this thing once. They build in these loops so that you're always incentivized to keep spending, to keep grinding, to keep spending more. It's never ending. Yeah. It's a hamster wheel of pain and credit card debt just waiting to happen. So
yeah, I try to avoid free to play for that reason for the most part. But honestly, if free to play could be a section of gaming where it's free to play, but if you want this or this skin or this thing, a couple dollars, $5, $10, $20, maybe $20 max, right? Fine. I could enjoy that space theoretically as long as you haven't hampered the game too much. And I just don't see I feel like that could be plenty profitable as well. Like I just don't understand why we have to do this and just ruin games. Like I've also heard that Diablo Immortal is actually mechanically very sound and very fun to play. Has a lot of good stuff to it. But I'm not going to go anywhere near it because it's just insane what they do to these games.
Yeah.
It's a bummer.
That's just the thing is why would a company cap their profits at, however much a couple of dollars per person per year adds up to when they can get a handful of whales who are going to spend thousands of dollars per year. And I'm sure stacking up the profits.
Well, I don't know the math, but I feel like I keep feeling like, this many whales is not
at some
worth
point
this many random people. Cause like I'm not spending money on your game. And there's a lot of people like me who are not spending money on your game. If you brought the prices down, hundreds, if not thousands of more people would probably drop $3, $5, $10 here and there. You got to think at a certain point, there's a cross section where it equals the same amount of money and you have a good game at that point. Like
I'm sure there is a balance. I think
that's what I believe. And I just don't understand why we can't do that.
I mean, I at some point there is that trade-off that could happen. I think the problem is just greed because you start out, even when you're going for smaller figures, you're building in loops to try and optimize and incentivize people to spend additional money. And I'm sure there are maybe a few companies that might be able to pull it off, but I think a lot of companies are just like, how do we optimize this to make as much money as possible? And that's ultimately their focus. Um, I also
Let's move on
plan.
to a good story, right?
Well, not yet. One other thing I wanted to talk about with Diablo is I'm also not going to pick it up because all of these complaints everyone's been voicing, the director of Diablo Immortal has heard them, and he responded to someone asking a question about the horrendous microtransactions and monetization and said, Hart, thanks for asking. I don't like it if information is misleading. There's a difference between players liking or not liking a game based on its merits, which I can accept. Not every game is for everybody, versus liking or not liking a game based on misinformation surrounding it. I agree with that sentiment. It's just very hypocritical. So someone responded to him saying, misleading is the director for a game saying it's not pay to win, which he's gone on record saying, despite everything we just talked about with how much it costs. So there's clearly a disconnect. I don't think this is anything that's going to change. Maybe Microsoft will change their direction, but I don't imagine that would happen for years. So until then, we should probably steer clear of Diablo Immortals 3 unless you love to lose money.
This is running as intended.
All right, let's move on to our second story. We have one more kind of negative story, so we're gonna keep complaining. You can skip ahead to story number 3 if you want some more positivity and you don't care about microtransactions or other types of things like that. This is a story about Gran Turismo 7. I wanted to touch on real quick because Levi, you and I have both enjoyed this game to some extent. We both have a history with the franchise from our childhood. Gran Turismo 7 has an update that just went out over the past week that increases the cost of many of the nicer cars within the game. So over 25 of the game's rarest cars are becoming more expensive. It was announced when this game launched that Polyphony and Sony had teamed up with classic car insurance company Haggerty to kind of reflect prices of vehicles in game with the real world, which is just what everyone wanted, right? We have some people on Reddit who I think said it really well. LOL, nothing like playing a game and being reminded you're still too poor for anything. And another person, it truly is a simulator. I can't afford a new car in real life either. So yeah, Gran Turismo 7's latest version 1.15 update revises a bunch of these prices, and again, a bunch of the really nice like legend level cars have gone up in prices. So I just wanted to call this out because it sucks. Like, we have a game that's talking about, we want to be a realistic racing sim, but you still can't sell cars, right? A realistic racing sim that you can only drive by yourself when you're connected to the internet, just like real life. Like, we claim that we want to live to it be as realistic as possible. But that's only when it comes to monetization. So I think it's a weak argument, and it's another example of a company highly optimizing for profit over everything else related to a game that otherwise is pretty good. So yeah, what do you think about Gran Turismo's latest update?
Yeah, I love it. This has honestly been one of the most depressing stories of 2022, in my opinion, because Diablo Immortal is gonna Diablo Immortal all over the place. We know that. We expect it.
Not a surprise.
Yeah, Polyphony here doing what they're doing with Gran Turismo 7 really hurts. Really gets me in the soul because I love the IP. I have since I was a child. I really looked forward to, as we documented here, that I really look forward to Gran Turismo 7 as they marketed it as this return to form. And in a lot of ways it is. But to see Polyphony, the company, do what they're doing here, it just sucks. It just really sucks because they're ruining an IP. They're off on this delusional goal of simulating the real economy of cars, which nobody wants. Not a single person has ever wanted that in a video game. It's contradictory. It's antithetical to the reason we play video games. The irony, which is aptly pointed out here, it's a true simulator. I can't afford a new car in real life either. Like, there's a reason we play Gran Turismo, is so that we can purchase these absurd cars that we could never afford in real life and play with them. And the fact that they're increasing the prices, it says one of the cars, the Ferrari, F40 has almost doubled from 1.35 million credits to 2.6 million credits. And on average, the price increase of Haggerty's vehicles will be 3.8% across the board. Literally, we are simulating inflation here. We are simulating inflation inside of a video game. What the heck are we doing? I think I saw another comment earlier in the week that was like, next update is going to simulate the increase in gas prices in petrol. You're going to have to fill up your vehicles for races,
Yeah.
and the gas prices are going to keep going up. And it's just like, what are we doing here, Polyphony? As you mentioned, they're hiding behind this veil of realism that no one wants, right? This isn't the realism anyone wants. But then they're also not making good on other obviously realistic things, like being able to sell your vehicle, which was they were just absolutely drugged through the mud at launch. People were like, this is absurd. This is the first Gran Turismo game ever where you cannot sell a car. If you get a duplicate of a car, too bad. You just have it. You can't sell it for money. It's just absurd. And the fact that they've been able to put out these updates where they make life more miserable for their players, but they still can't just put in a system where you can sell your vehicle or things like that. It's just, it sucks. And it just kind of, I was hopeful that after all of the backlash from the launch of GT7, I was hopeful we would see a recalibration from Polyphony and kind of a massive step back, especially with them being part of Sony. I kind of had hope that this game would cut back on a lot of this, and maybe we'd see an update where you don't have to be online for everything. And I was really hopeful because I wanted to return to Gran Turismo 7 at that point. And now here we see months later after launch them pushing out this update. It's very clear they don't intend to change. This is what Gran Turismo 7 is. And it's depressing. It's one of the most depressing stories of the year for me, and it kind of feels like Gran Turismo as an IP is kind of ruined for me, which is impressive for them to do that after 20 plus years. So
it shows where their priorities really are, unfortunately. I don't know that I've ever seen an example where a company comes out with monetization practices that are egregious and then walks them back, but then doesn't keep coming back. Like, Bungie has done this a ton with Destiny. It's always like a huge blunder. People freak out, so they walk it back a little bit. And then over the next 3, 6, 9 months, they just keep taking steps progressively closer back towards that line. And they're always going to do that and get as close to that line as they can. I feel like a company that isn't going to abuse your trust that way is pretty unlikely to launch a monetization system of that kind in the first place. So unfortunately, I don't expect those things to change. It's ironic too, like if you want a simulator where cars have some level of like scaling in prices, it's, if you don't have a built-in like loot box buying credit system and you only earn currency within the game, that can maybe work better because you have to balance your credit earning system within the game itself to be fulfilling and satisfying. And then the argument of, I want to save up for expensive cars. You can do that without having to deal with inflation and without having to pull out your actual wallet to cover it. And so I think that's the core issue here.
Remember before launch for Gran Turismo 7 when there was all this discussion around, there's going to be microtransactions in this game. And of course, the age-old person on the internet comes out and says, it doesn't affect you because you don't have to buy them. And I remember I said before this game came out, I said the very fact that there are microtransactions in a game means that they have designed the game with microtransactions in mind. So whether or not you notice it, the game has changed to an extent to try and incentivize you to purchase. Now, there's varying levels of that, and little did we know here, Gran Turismo 7 is just not even subtle about it at all. But we're certainly seeing that. The microtransactions have impacted the game at its core. If you took the online features and the microtransactions out of this game, all of this nonsense and garbage that makes the quality of life for players worse would disappear because there'd be no need for it. It's simply to drive purchases in the game. So it's just a bummer. It sucks. It is what it is. And like you said, it's not as serious, obviously, but like it is comparative to almost an abusive relationship, right? Because these companies kind of abuse your trust. And the people that are still playing Gran Turismo 7 in June, they've accepted the game as is. Polyphony knows that. So they really have no incentive to make the game better at this point. to bring back people like me because I'm not going to spend money. So
they give you enough fun
is.
gameplay to keep abusing your trust and then trying to monetize further. And I agree that the microtransactions, the equilibrium of the economy is completely balanced with heavy microtransactions in mind. And then two, even from a technical architecture standpoint, like you can't play single campaign things offline. And so when they take things down for maintenance or all sorts of things, like you have technical issues. I was interrupted multiple times on a really hard time trial where right at the end I got booted off because of server stuff they were doing. So it's like, and they were down for like 30 hours at one point.
Polyphony's never going to hear the end of that one from Zach. I'll tell you
what. It was so frustrating. I spent like an hour and I almost got this thing. And then, point is the game was completely undermined by microtransactions. So fair warning. And it's a bummer to see it, but let's move on to some happier stories. Our third story, Capcom is having a digital showcase. So as Levi mentioned at the beginning, we had the Summer Games Fest, the Day of the Devs showcase, and Devolver Digital's showcase all yesterday. We have a video up for Summer Games Fest now. We'll have a video up for Day of the Devs and Devolver Digital very soon here. Capcom showcase will be happening on June 13th, so a couple days from the launch of this video. So that's Monday, June 13th at 3 o'clock Pacific time, 6 o'clock Eastern. It'll be on Capcom's official Twitch and YouTube channels. They say it's going to be about 35 minutes, so not a super long showcase. I think the big thing everyone's hoping for, anyone who's like, kind of following Capcom, is Dragon's Dogma 2. And I've heard good things about Dragon's Dogma. Like that's been kind of on the periphery of recommendations for me for a little while, which I don't know if you know anything about Dragon's Dogma.
I'm doing a quick Google here.
That might be something you should check out.
Okay.
I hear that's kind of a difficult game, but it's kind of a niche, like a cult classic type game. So
there's hope that there will be a sequel or something. Is that what it is?
I don't know. I don't know exactly how you define hope. A lot of people want that. I don't know how realistic it is though.
Right. But I just mean a sequel, not like an update or something.
Right. Yeah. I think everyone wants Dragon's Dogma 2. Although okay. I imagine like a remake with, next gen update would probably be welcome as well.
The screenshots look very Witcher.
Yeah. It's like a dark fantasy type thing. So we'll see. That would be interesting because I like that type of game and genre. We'll probably get some stuff about Monster Hunter Sunbreak. That's kind of one of the things that's expected. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Levi, I don't know if you have anything you're following.
Coming out real soon and is going to give me like a 90 from my Fantasy Critics score. Just you wait and see.
It just might.
It just might. I'm hoping. But no, this is cool. This whole Ghost of E3 week, Summer Games Fest, whatever you want to call it. Summer Games Fest was just the one day, so I don't really know what we're calling this whole thing. I keep calling it the Ghost of E3, but it's been kind of a hot mess. It's been kind of a hot mess. Everyone's kind of keeping things to themselves, so it's kind of hard for people like Jeff Keighley or other people to coordinate things because they kind of get the leftovers, whatever. The one thing I will say is that I really like that at least we're all back into like what seems to be a calendar week. So even though it kind of feels like a mess, and I mean, to be fair, E3 was always kind of a mess too. So
a little bit,
I'm just glad that it seems like we are getting a solid week of gaming news. We've had yesterday, today, Sunday is Xbox Bethesda. Now we're hearing about Capcom on Monday. I really hope we're going to hear about a Nintendo Direct soon or a PlayStation showcase. That would just make this E3, right? So I like to see more companies getting in on this week and just kind of having a celebratory week of gaming news. I'm all about it.
Totally. So yeah, check that out on Monday. Let's move on to our fourth story. There's a rumor that a new Crash Bandicoot game might be in the works. This might interest you, Levi, or viewer. So this is reported by Video Games Chronicle. Toys for Bob, which is the developer who did Crash Bandicoot It's About Time, which is the fourth Crash Bandicoot, kind of the fourth entry in the series. that came out a couple years ago to pretty critical acclaim. They let's see, we had someone from Toys for Bob, I believe, speaking on the Windows Central Xbox Chatter Days podcast. And let's see, it's a Windows Central journalist, Jez Corden, implied that he has knowledge of a new Crash Bandicoot title. So this is like once removed rumor. So we'll see that he has knowledge of a new Crash Bandicoot title in development at the studio behind Crash 4. It's About Time, as well as the remake trilogy. Another guest on the podcast named Rand Thor, which that's got to be a pseudonym or something, because that's like the Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time chosen one, but maybe it was the guy.
Just really cool.
Maybe the Dragon Reborn was on this podcast. So Randall Thor predicted that Toys for Bob could be working on a new Crash title that could possibly be shown at the upcoming Xbox and Bethesda showcase. And Corden asked sarcastically, where did you get that info, Rand? Before saying later, I wasn't supposed to leak that. Kind of inferring that there might be some truth to it, because it wouldn't be a problem to leak it. But it's
exactly
a little
what someone who's making something up would say.
Yeah, it's a little flimsy, but maybe there's something there. VGC also reported late last year that Toys for Bob was potentially hiring for non-Call of Duty projects, based on a listing on their internal careers site. So there are a couple of indicators that maybe there's something they were working on, because I think that was the big thing everyone was depressed about, is they took Toys for Bob staff and we're going to put them all on Call of Duty. So it seems like maybe there have been some things in the work. Maybe they scaled it down, but we can only hope, because Crash Bandicoot's a great franchise, and I would rather get more Crash stuff than like just have more people on the machine that is Call of Duty. No offense to Call of Duty.
Yeah, dude, I hope this is happening. If we get a Crash 5 announcement on Sunday, it almost wouldn't matter what else is at that showcase. Honestly, that would be a success for me. Crash 4, it was kind of the fourth game, but really they just kind of swept all the other ones under the rug and went back to the original trilogy, which everyone loved, and made a fourth installment. But that game was incredible. Like, genuinely, Toys for Bob knocked it out of the park. That game was, it was so true to what Crash Bandicoot is, but at the same time, it is legitimately the best Crash Bandicoot game that we've ever gotten. Like, it is polished. It's brought to the modern era. The level design, the gameplay, the visuals were just, that game was such a blast to play through. Can't say enough good things about it, honestly. The platinum is brutal. I'm a little bit afraid of a new Crash Bandicoot game, because I kid you not, my toughest platinums that I have are pretty much all Crash Bandicoot games. So very, very difficult on that front. But man, I hope this is true, because I remember when it was either last year or the year before, we had the news story that Toys for Bob and I can't remember who else, but essentially Activision were, I can't remember who did Vicarious Visions, because they were the ones who also did the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 or Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake and stuff. Like, great games. These companies are doing great things. Activision essentially put them into the machine that is Call of Duty. And that was a depressing day, because it was like we had just gotten such great remakes or reimaginings of old games from them. And it was like, we're never going to get any more from them now, because Activision has swallowed them up into the black hole that is Call of Duty. So that was depressing. And the fact that, obviously Activision purchasing them, maybe that had something to do with it, but I don't know that Activision is really making any decisions
Microsoft?
Sorry, what did I say? Yeah. Microsoft purchased Activision. I don't think Microsoft is yet making decisions for Activision. I don't know. I hope
be influencing it, though. Like, if this is the direction they're headed, there might be things of like, hey, we'd like you to bring this back. Who knows? I don't know how much influence like Bobby Kotick has over, because he's still in power, right? Like, I don't know.
I think he's a figurehead at this point, but
I think so. I think the writing's on the wall for him. So either way, this is great news. I'm very glad to hear this. So again, it's a rumor, so I guess temper your expectations a little bit, but we can hope. Also, I think good call. I didn't have this in here. I called out the Capcom showcase on Monday the 13th. Just a reminder that the Xbox Bethesda showcase is on Sunday, the 12th of June, so a couple days from now. All right, let's move on to our fifth story. Another rumor. It's another Kojima rumor. Levi, I know is your favorite thing, which is Kojima news, which is almost always vague and unsubstantiated. Hideo Kojima's next game may be a horror game, and it might be called Overdose. This was reported by leaker Tom Henderson for Try Hard Guides. We all know we can trust this guy. I actually have no idea who this is. So,
Off of 4chan.
the news apparently stems from early footage showing a third-person character played by Quarry exploring dark corridors using a flashlight. Footage reportedly ends with a jump scare, a game over screen, and the title screen. Henderson has since said that Kojima Productions has asked him to remove the story from publication, lending weight to the truth of the leak. I'm not sold if that lends weight to the truth of the leak or not. I feel like that could go either way, but yeah, that's kind of the rumor. So I'll show the tweet that kind of links to the article and whatnot, so you can go check it out for yourselves. But I could totally see Kojima being, working on a new horror game. For a while, he was going to help with like a Silent Hill thing, and then that fell through.
Dude, there have been so many rumors the past like two years about Kojima. It's just exhausting. The whole mess with Abandoned. What a true mess that was. That was horrible. So, yeah, I'm so over it. I think a lot of people are over it. Even Kojima fans, I think, are like, Abandoned really kind of left a sour taste in everyone's mouth, because they just kind of were trying to use Kojima as like this conspiracy to build hype for their game, and then it turns out they are just a terrible game developer who have only released like half-finished products or never finished anything. What a mess that was. So the fact that they asked them to take this down, I actually do think, I kind of think that does lend weight to it, because I think typically companies don't really bother themselves with fake leaks. I just think they don't care that much. I think they only really care if it's detrimental to their business or if it's true. And this isn't detrimental to Kojima production. So kind of makes me think maybe it's true. I think we'll know. I think thankfully we'll know soon. I don't know if Kojima will be at Xbox on Sunday or if he'll be at PlayStation somewhere down the line, but I can't wait for this nightmare to end and for us all to know what Kojima's working on.
It makes me wonder if, a couple of weeks ago, Norman Reedus, the Walking Dead actor who is also the lead actor for Death Stranding, he accidentally leaked something in an interview saying that they're working on Death Stranding 2. And you and I both had the reaction of like, I don't know what you do for a sequel of that game, just based on how the game ended with those characters. Not that it couldn't be done. I just don't, it feels like a strange thing to have a sequel for. And there was kind of some cheeky back and forth between Norman Reedus and Hideo Kojima on Twitter of like, Kojima was like, go to your private room, my friend, or something weird. It kind of feels like maybe that was like an intentional diversion. Maybe I'm putting on my tinfoil conspiracy.
No, that's the other problem. That's the other problem, is that there's all of this stuff happening about Kojima that has nothing to do with Kojima. But then also Kojima kind of likes to screw with people. He likes to mess with people and put out red herrings and watch the world burn. And I respect it too, but it's taken on a life of its own separate from him. So now when you factor in the fact that he's still doing it, it's too much to handle at this point for me. So
I hear that. Kojima, we appreciate your antics, but you're hurting people now. You're hurting good people.
You're hurting good people.
But keep it up. It's hilarious. So yeah, who knows what's real? I don't, about anything, including this story. So maybe he's working on a horror game. Yeah. It's all as Elon Musk told us, and we can trust this guy who has bungled the potential acquisition of Twitter. So anyway, there's tangents on tangents. Let's move on to our sixth story. So Arcane, the League of Legends inspired Netflix animated show, was fantastic. Levi and I, we wanted to record a breakdown of this a few months ago, and we haven't gotten around to it because the show came out end of last year, I think. And we watched it at the beginning of this year. We're going to do a breakdown for the first season just because I don't know about you, but the more time that's gone on, I've watched the whole thing twice. I think it's my favorite show of all time. And
it's the best television I've ever seen in my whole life.
It's the best television. It's my favorite animated thing. It's some of the best fantasy I've ever seen. It's definitely the best steampunkish fantasy thing. And it's up there in the best of the best fantasy across the board. And I read, I really love that genre. It's incredible. So Arcane, the studio that made the Arcane show, is putting together a 5-part making of the show series, which I thought sounded cool. So League of Legends has announced that it'll be taking fans behind the scenes of the show in a new 5-part series it's calling Bridging the Rift. This story of how Arcane came to be will air on YouTube, with a new episode due to arrive each Thursday starting on the 4th of August. First of all, I think that's cool because, one, it was an incredible show, but the storytelling was really good. The animation was incredible. The sound design, the music, they brought everything together so incredibly. It's one of those pieces of art where it might actually be fascinating to watch. How did they put this together so well? It reminds me of when the Lord of the Rings films came out. They were masterpieces, and so it was fun to go and watch the behind the scenes to see how did they make this thing come to life. So I'll definitely be checking this out come August to see what went into the making of such a good show. I don't know if you have any thoughts about this.
No, I remember when we were watching this for the first time. I remember we would say, like, I don't know how something this good came to be. Like, how did this many people work on something and it's this perfect in every way? And hopefully we'll get to know more about how that happened. Like you said, there's not a lot of things that I would really be that interested in watching this for, but Arcane is one of them because it's honestly a masterpiece on so many levels, and I want to see the people behind it. I want to see how this came to be. I'm interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that level of creativity, passion, but also competence is really it's cool, but it's also inspiring. And so rare. And it's rare. I'm excited for this. So keep an eye on League of Legends YouTube channel, August 4th. So it's still a little ways out, but I think that'll be pretty neat. Just while we're on the subject, everyone's eagerly awaiting the second season of Arcane. There's still no word as to when this might arrive. Likely going to be next year at the very earliest, though.
The earliest, it'll be a while.
The first season was a few years in the making. Also, it was like millions of dollars per episode. The budget for Arcane was, I guess I didn't realize this until fairly recently. I did some research on it, and the budget for animated things is a lot higher. You might think it's not because you're not in real locations.
There's a lot of work that goes into every scene.
So a lot of effort, a lot of work, and a lot of people still that have to put these things together. And Arcane is some of the better animation I've ever seen. Anyway, it might be a little while before we get the second season, but this is one of those things where I think the worth will very likely be worth the wait. All right, so that wraps up our news stories for today. Before we end the episode, real quick, let's do a couple of review roundups for games that have come out in the past week or so. We already talked about Diablo Immortal, so we don't need to spend much time on that, but that's at a 62 on PC, 68 on Metacritic, 68 on OpenCritic. So again, that's it is what it is.
And then a 0.5 on user scores. Right?
The user score is 0.5, which speaks for itself. But we also had Mario Strikers Battle League launch within this week, and this is what I'm kind of interested in because I love the Mario sports games more or less. They're always some level of a good time, but Nintendo sometimes phones things in a little bit. So I kind of wanted to see where this lands. Right in line with our expectations. Mario Strikers Battle League is sitting at a 75 on Metacritic, 76 on OpenCritic. We have Travis Northup from IGN who gave it an 8 out of 10, saying Mario Strikers Battle League is an over-the-top soccer game that's wildly fun, even though it does very little new. Tom Phillips from Eurogamer gave it no recommendation, saying Mario Strikers returns with a stripped-back entry for Switch that's ultimately less fun to tackle. And Joel Franey from Games Radar Plus gave it 3.5 out of 6 stars. What a rating scale, Games Radar Plus. Come on.
Sounds like a 50 to me.
I don't know if I respect you or not for such a weird system, but it is a 50, a 5 out of 10.
Non-conventional.
And Joel says, though occasionally likable and basically inoffensive, Mario Strikers Battle League struggles to build on its ideas and ends up feeling pretty undercooked as an experience. So I'm a little bummed, but this is about what I expected. If I can find this game on a sale, I'll probably pick it up, but this leaves me not wanting to drop $60 for it.
No, and you won't find it on a sale because Nintendo games don't really go on sale first party.
I meant if I mug an elementary schooler.
Oh, I never thought about that. I might play more Nintendo games if I did that. Yeah, this is kind of just. I remember I sent you a screenshot of these snippets of reviews because, and my comment was how unlike Nintendo, facetiously, of course, or sarcastically, and because this is just what they do. Like whether it's Mario Party or Mario Golf or now here Mario Strikers, they release this. He says it's basically inoffensive. I don't know. I'm offended by it. I'm tired of it. Like they released this bare bones, absolutely bare bones game, and then maybe add to it later on, maybe,
Yeah.
but also probably not. Like Mario Party, I think there's one that's come out since, but a couple years ago, the Mario Party that came out, very bare bones, only a couple maps, almost no customization options for anything, and they just kind of left that and moved on to the next Mario Party, and that's just what Nintendo does, and it kind of sucks because it's like, especially in a world where we have Smash Bros. Ultimate, where it's like we have the ultimate version of Smash Bros. And then also Mario Kart. Instead of them doing a Mario Kart 9, they're essentially creating Mario Kart Ultimate with Mario Kart 8 as they're adding all these tracks, right? I would love to see Nintendo put a little more energy into some of these sports titles or Mario Party especially, and
Yeah.
but this is what they do. They release these kind of fun but just very minimal bare bones games for $60, and then all
Yeah.
the Nintendo fans, 30 million of us, buy it. So
And that's the thing is, as a one-off, time and time again, it's not really offensive. It's pretty good. But over time, there's a resentment that builds up because they're doing just enough to get our money, just enough to be satisfying. And they occasionally knock it out of the park with some of their flagship titles. But with some of these games, it's like they could do better, but they know they don't need to. And it's that knowledge that makes you feel not valued as a customer, but also just like
yeah,
over time, you get tired of it. Like I love these titles, but you know, I've been playing video games for, I'm in my third decade of playing video games. I want to be surprised and delighted here and there. And we look at a game like Crash Bandicoot 4, the way it managed to surprise and delight, even though it was the fourth installment of a historical legacy franchise. There's definitely ways to do this. It takes more time and attention. So, but
yeah.
it's Nintendo. They do
And
whatever
it
they
sucks
want to do.
because people buy it, but I don't. I haven't been buying these games, and I want to. Like, I kind of want to play Mario Strikers. It looks fun, but I'm offended by the price and the amount of content in it, and I just
You'll
can't.
borrow it
So
from
I
me.
just there you go. When you buy it
When I
today
mug
after this
when I mug
episode,
an elementary schooler, you can borrow it from me.
so I'm offended, and it just sucks. There's this dichotomy of Nintendo that's so weird, where it's like some of their first party, they're known for just some of the highest quality in the industry, but ironically, like 70% of what they put out is pretty lame, like pretty
Yeah.
substandard. And I mean, what can you say? Nintendo has it made. They can do whatever the heck they want, and they will
And they
make
do.
all the money. So
They do whatever the heck they want. All right. Well, let's move on. We got one more review roundup. A game called The Quarry came out this week, which is a horror game and I thought this game looked familiar in style. It's kind of got the somewhat realistic facial capture of like actual actors and actresses. And this is by the developers who made Until Dawn, which is why it was familiar. I actually played that, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 years ago when it came out. It was pretty good. I thought it felt like you were playing a horror movie, and it had some interesting twists and turns. It was suspenseful, tense, some interesting characters. I thought it was a pretty good game. I'm actually kind of interested now, knowing that they've made The Quarry, and the gameplay and the story, the narrative, all looks interesting in this as well. This is doing fairly well on Metacritic, sitting at a 79, OpenCritic sitting at an 81, so respectable. We have John Bales or Bailey's, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, from PC Gamer, who gave this a 70 out of 100 and says a gripping horror story, but one where the interactive elements struggle to sustain the tension. Jason Faulkner from Games Revolution gave it an 8.5 out of 10, saying The Quarry is a celebration of horror with enough twists and turns to excite even the most jaded aficionado. It manages to avoid the tropes inherent with its summer camp setting by giving each of the protagonists a thorough opportunity for characterization and makes you care enough about each of them for their fates to matter. And then finally, Vicky Blake from Eurogamer gave this no recommendation, saying, if it hadn't been for that thoroughly unjust rewind right at the end of my playthrough, The Quarry with its stunning visuals, wonderful voice work, fabulous score, and intriguing plotline, would have been one of my favorite games of the year thus far, and one of the best horror romps for some time. As it stands, though, it's hard to feel anything but disappointment for a game that took all my time and effort and just discarded them without warning. It's one thing to kill off a character, it's another thing to kill off a player's enthusiasm. So, a little bit of mixed opinions here. I tried to grab a sampling, but overall, it seems like this is moderately positive. And even like the Vicky's no recommendation, it seems like it maybe bungled a couple of things that ruined something that was otherwise working pretty well. So this might be one of those cases where it's doing a fair amount of things right, but it's weak in a few areas. Seems to be the vibe I get. But what do you think about the Quarry?
It's interesting. I never did get around to Until Dawn. It's not my genre, but I've been I look at them in my peripherals and I'm like, that looks like it could be fun. And this looks like it could be fun too. For me, the only problem I have with games like this is, it kind of reminds me of like Detroit Become Human or things like that,
Yeah.
where when a game becomes, we've talked about this on other shows, when a game becomes overly cinematic or storytelling-y and there's not enough gameplay, I'm usually out. I need more interactivity in the medium that's defined by interactivity, right? So if this is, I actually know, you know what? I remember reading that there is a mode for this game where you can just watch it. I do remember reading that. So I mean, hey, maybe that's kind of cool. That's one worry I would have with this game for me personally. And then it sounds like over at Eurogamer, it sounds like a cutscene took away some things she thought she had agency over at the end of the game, which is never fun. You always hate when you do all these things and then a cutscene happens and you're like, well, what the heck? But overall, it seems like it's doing well. A lot of people love Until Dawn. So same people doing what they do best. It sounds like, with a kind of a spiritual successor here, and I'm sure it's high quality for those who are really into this genre.
Yeah. Yep, I think it looks cool. I'll probably check it out at some point. So if that sounds neat, check out The Quarry. And that brings us to the end of our review roundup for this week. Levi, you want to tell us what games are coming out? What free stuff can we look out for?
Yeah, nothing's coming out this week. Well, things are coming out this week, but the notable things have already come out as of this episode, which are The Quarry and Mario Strikers. So go get them if you want them. They're out there. As far as free stuff, Epic Games is now giving away kind of their last big free title, it seems, because the one after this is, we already know what it is. It's no longer a mystery game, which kind of denotes the end of the bigger high profile games. But the current one is Maneater, which is free from now until June 16th. So go and get it. That's actually a pretty fun game. I know you played it. I played it. I think we both platinumed that game.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's just good old fashioned video game fun. Like, you're just a shark. You're eating things. It controls well visually. It's pretty great. It's a good time. So make sure you claim that, because someday you'll be looking for something to play and you'll have Maneater on your computer. Might as well. Let's see. Other than that, there's just a lot of sales going on right now. So we're kind of in the middle of the month. Not too many free things to shout out, but Epic still has their big sale going on. So scan through that, see if there's anything. PlayStation ended their days of play sale, but now they immediately started a brand new sale where different things are now discounted. So go ahead and check that out. Some notable ones that I have on my wish list here. Assassin's Creed Origins Gold Edition, which includes all of the DLC for Assassin's Creed Origins, which is the one that's set in ancient Egypt. My personal favorite of the recent three is on sale for $20 right now, and it just recently got its update finally after years for 60 FPS on console. So that's fantastic. You can go pick that up for $20, have just a ton of content to play. It's a very good game, and you have it at 60 FPS now. So that's a worthwhile shout out. I think if you haven't played that game, it's a good one. Also, last week we were talking about Ollie Ollie World and how I was going to pass on it because there's like a full edition that includes all the future DLC coming. Well, immediately now on this new sale, it's discounted from $45 down to $35, and I'm kind of looking at it like maybe I'll grab that because It's the full game, and then there's 2 DLC coming out later this year into next year that will be.
And I'm annoyed because
so.
I jumped on a Switch deal for Ollie Ollie World a few months or like a month ago for like $20 for the base game. I don't regret the game's great. I'm like halfway through it. I really, really like it. I recommend it. I'm just annoyed because now I have to buy the DLC separately. But
you must have patience.
Maybe I'll pick it up on PlayStation and get the trophy instead with the full version or something. But
there you go. Why not buy it twice when you could buy it
why
once?
not? It's a really good game.
Yeah, that's about it for my wish list. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot on sale. Probably the other thing that's kind of annoying on PlayStation is that you can't see the discount on games you've already purchased. Mm-hmm. So there's probably some really good games I've already purchased that are on sale. So go check out these sales. Grab yourself a game or two. It's kind of a slow time of year, so there's surely something in your backlog you've missed that's discounted right now that you can grab while we wait for kind of September to roll around with all these releases coming later this year. So that's it for this week. This week in gaming, all of our reviews are free stuff. That'll do it. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Gaming. Stay tuned. We're going to have more content coming for the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, some of these other showcases coming later in the week, as well as some more Kenobi discussions as we continue to do our Seen It episodes. So hopefully we'll see you there for all that, and we'll catch you next time on Neverlag.